If you've played Deepwoken for as long as I have, you've probably gotten pretty good at Trial of One. So good, in fact, that you start thinking it might be possible to do it through memory alone, completely blindfolded.
No, just me? Okay, well, it is possible, and in this video, I'm going to explain how I did it and, the strategies behind it.
Obviously, you can take off your blindfold to invest stats, otherwise half the video would be me just randomly clicking around the screen, trying to progress to the next event. Trial of One has 9 events you need to complete, 2 of which are parry checks, which are pretty easy blindfolded, as you have some very generous sound cues. The rest of the events take a lot more planning to complete, especially when you can't see them. After around 50 practice runs, I found that the only events I really struggled with were Angels, Sand Golem, and Sharko. Sharko is probably the most difficult part of this challenge, simply because 1, he takes the most hits to kill, and 2, he has no sound cues. When I first started, almost every run ended due to how random the Sharko's attacks seemed, because there was no way to anticipate what his next move would be, due to the fact that he had no sound cues until after he attacked. The challenge started to seem impossible. So I did what any sane person would do, and gathered 23 video clips of people beating Sharko without taking damage, taking note of what attacks he used in what order he used them in. Then I compiled that data into a spreadsheet so I could find out his most common attack pattern, finding the probability of success when guessing his incoming attacks. I then made my own sound cues based on the most common attack pattern that I could play on my soundboard when he first spawned in, so that I had a rough idea of what he was actually doing. And that last part didn't work at all. I ended up just guessing. So with that knowledge under my belt, I was finally able to consistently beat Sharko and continue the rest of the challenge. After Sharko was the Golem, which is weak to blunt damage, which means he dies in 20 hits. The strategy here is to use a critical as soon as I hear the spawn noise, then immediately parry. After that, I can get 4 hits in before the beam fires, and from there he uses it as a spin attack, but occasionally he'll swing, so I dodge to be safe. In this run, he does do a swing attack, so I dodge. After that, I can just spam F and click for the spin attack, which lets me hit him during that attack. I don't know if that's going to work for layer 2 because this footage is before that, but yeah, that's usually enough to kill him. Originally, I thought Thresher would be the hardest one to beat, but I figured out a strategy that worked almost every time with him. However, in this run, I totally mess up and get hit by his entire first attack, so I had to clutch up a little, but it went pretty well. I didn't even realize how low I was until I saw the video after, and I was like, oh dude, I got no HP left. But yeah, pretty much the strategy here is just hit him once or twice, and then dodge away, hold block, and then hopefully he misses his attacks. If he doesn't miss, then he'll hit your block, and he doesn't do enough damage. You do a little bit more damage than he can, so eventually you can kind of stat check him, but he's a bit tricky unless you know what you're doing. Angels are the next big hurdle in this challenge just because of how complex the fight is when you can't see them. It's a more complicated version of no animation Angels, if you remember that. My strategy here was just to hold block, and then once I heard the block noise, I went in for a parry, and then either a critical or an M1. And that let me slowly whittle them down. One tricky thing about Angels is that it's really hard to tell where they are, but sometimes they can get behind you, or if they get behind you, you're pretty much dead because you can't block anymore. But luckily that didn't happen in this run. It happened in a couple other runs. But yeah, Angels, they're slippery. They will go in the worst possible spot. In this run, I think one of them got knocked, and then it got back up because I wasn't able to stay on top of it because I didn't know where it was on the screen at the time. But eventually, they funnel towards me once they get back up, see the guy's knocked now, and then, yeah, it's pretty much just repeat the same pattern. I got really close to dying because they were doing some shenanigans in the beginning, but luckily I was able to finish it up and get them taken care of. Another hard part about this is finding them after they're knocked to grip them. And a lot of my runs ended because I couldn't find the button on my keyboard to grip them because I couldn't see my keyboard. So that was an issue. I had to run towards them, find where their bodies were by hitting them, and then press the execute button. And yeah, that's Angels.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea what happened there.
Enforcer is pretty easy. At any time you can just hold block and be safe. He doesn't do enough posture damage, unless you get the hammer variant, in which case he does more posture damage and his parry timings are a bit slower, but luckily in this run I don't get that. The strategy for Enforcer was pretty much just same as Angels, just hold block and then time the parry, and then going for an M1 or a critical. The critical gives you a free M1 after, so it's a bit better to do it that way, and yeah. Beating Sand Golem was the final challenge in this challenge that ended a lot of my runs. Like Sharko, most of his attacks don't have sound cues, but I didn't have to make a spreadsheet for him because he died in 12 hits due to our 6% damage mace. The only move you really have to watch out for is his kick, so luckily I dodged it in this one. I basically memorized the timing for all of his attacks, and you can kill him really quickly, so it's not too hard. But he did end a couple of my runs. After Sand Golem, we spam F for the last parry trade, and then it's time for Alpha Sharko. Alpha Sharko can open up with 2 moves, either as a spit attack, or he'll do a swipe and then a kick. Luckily, he also dies in like 6 hits, so as long as you don't get kicked and parry the orbs, he's pretty much free. And the challenge is finally over. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all when I come on. Goodbye.
Let's go. Oh my gosh, it's over. Oh, thank God.